Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Shelved. Today is a pretty fun episode. It's the first script we're looking at on the blacklist, and that script is called Ares. Now, the writer is Geneva, I'm not sure about the pronunciation of this name, Geneva Robertson-Dworet, and the draft is dated May 2015. And this was a really fun read. So this, the blacklist scripts, I don't have a ton of information on them. I haven't read any of them beforehand. And all I kind of have is the Logline, which I got from some other website that just like listed all the scripts. And my guests pick out all the scripts, and Eric Zisselman, who's coming back for the third time, he picked this script, and the Logline was very interesting. So I was like, all right, this sounds really cool. Let's see what this is about. And I had no expectations going in. I didn't know if I was going to like it. I didn't know what it was going to be like. But I will say, as soon as I started reading, I was hooked almost immediately. It's a really interesting script. It's a script that is 100% fueled by the mystery of what is going on. And it's written very well. If anyone read it, I hope you'll agree. But I felt like it was written in a really good... Like, they didn't give too much away. They didn't... it's just like, I don't want to spoil anything, but because it's definitely all about the mystery, and I try to string that along throughout the podcast and not give it away right away, because it's definitely worth reading though. If you get to this point and you haven't read it and you're interested in reading it, I would just say shut this off and go read it. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, we sat down, we had a good conversation about it. It was a little shorter than your average episode because like when we talk about these like nerdier things like Spider-Man and X-Men and Batman, we all have a lot of love for that stuff, but when you're coming in cold on a script, it leads to some more interesting conversation for sure. But it's, you can only break out that conversation so far because you only have what's on the page versus what we know from the years of the things we love. But I still think this was a really fun episode, and I hope you really enjoy it. Be sure to leave a review for the show if you haven't already. You can search for the show Shelved on iTunes and just click on the reviews and ratings section, and it'll ask if you want to write a review right there. It's real easy. It's good for the algorithms to get this show pushed up the charts so more people can find it. I love doing this, and I will do this as long as people are listening, even if it's just one guy. If I check my downloads and it says 1, I'm going to keep doing it. But I want that number to be higher. So if you leave a review, we can definitely get that number up, and more people will be listening. We can have more engageful conversations. So I urge people to just go ahead and leave a review. Take a few seconds. You can even just leave a rating. You don't have to write anything. You can just go leave a rating. I'd be happy with that. But if you leave a review, I will read it on the show. All right, so we're just going to jump into it. This is, again, Ares, and I'm sitting down for the third-time guest, or with my third-time guest, Eric Zisselman. Just make sure you come in louder. I know it's early.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. So you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
All right. So I think, I don't know where you're sitting at now. I think we sat on this one maybe a little too long.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. But I know that when I first started reading it, I was really immediately captured by the mystery of it. And I think that mystery maintains through a good amount of this script. And that's kind of the thing that kept me going. Like, because this is the first one we've done that isn't like some comic book property or something. Like, pretty much every podcast I've done so far has been something that we all know and can relate to. So this is the first one. It's like, hey, this is a totally blind read. And immediately gives me the effect of The Martian.
Yeah. I completely agree with you there. I was, like you, I was definitely excited to jump into a movie that is not of our common interests. Some new sci-fi flick that neither of us knew anything about. came in blind, and you did mention that the start of it definitely throws you into the movie immediately. With,
like it's just
meteor. Well, not the meteor, but
the pod.
The pod coming flashing through the earth, and it feels very claustrophobic starting out a little bit, but it really gets you excited immediately.
Yeah, and it made it, like, as you said, it feels claustrophobic because it starts off in a capsule, but then immediately drops him into a big empty desert and somehow makes that empty desert still feel claustrophobic and frightening.
Yeah. I would love to see. I don't remember if they mentioned the exact location in
They just
Africa.
keep mentioning somewhere in Africa, and they talk about a town over and over again, which starts with an A. I think I have it somewhere here in my notes, but I never actually looked up to see if that was a real town.
Yeah, no, I was just in my head, he crash lands in the desert, which, Sahara Desert. I don't think it was the Sahara Desert because I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And it'd be tough to just find someone because, I mean, the movie starts rolling. He
like
crashes
really quick.
and... next thing you know, people find him, and apparently he's wanted before he even fucking lands on the planet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we keep getting all this information. Like, he knows that people are looking for him. We have no idea why. We have no idea what he's doing. And it starts to kind of give you hints that is the thing he's doing, did it actually even happen?
Yeah.
Like, there's the whole mystery of, is this guy kind of hallucinating or making stuff up? Because the very first thing he does is he takes the like coolant or antifreeze out of the pod. And this is what I was talking about. I was like the Martian. It's just him kind of spitting scientific facts about this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's, can I drink you? Which he does. And then we just get a lot of implications that, like, this guy is hallucinating like fucking crazy because he's dehydrated drinking antifreeze in the desert.
Yeah, it's tough to navigate what is true and what is his hallucination throughout the beginning of the movie.
And I would say even throughout, like, 3/4 of the movie, because it isn't really until near the end where you start learning that, like, oh, some of this stuff is actually true.
Right. Yeah. I think that's part of the point of the earlier part of the movie, just really testing your as someone in the audience, your mental, just for taking what's given to you on the screen.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know about you, but, like, I feel like a lot of movies are fairly predictable nowadays. And throughout this, I was never really sure where it was going.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what interested me and what kept me going throughout the script. And, like, yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of like, okay, we get the setup. The first 10 pages of a script are usually pretty boring because that's, like, character setup and stuff like that. But once you get past that, it's like, oh, man, what is going on here? And it was literally like a book I couldn't put down for a little while.
Yeah, it took me a moment to find my groove, but completely agree with you. It's once you get into it, once your interest is there, it's a lot of fun to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And this script does have kind of a construct of flashbacks, which we talked about before. So in the way they write it, it's basically implying that, like, let's say he's drinking water in the scene, and then it flashes back to another scene, and it always kind of flashes back to him doing the same thing.
Right.
Like, he's drinking water in the present, flashes back to a bar where he's also drinking something.
He's leaning over a bar or something, and then it goes from him drinking the green coolant to him having an apple martini or something of the same color.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess as a reader, I could picture kind of, I mean, in my mind, it seems kind of stupid the way I picture it, but
at the same time, I like the way they did it.
Sure,
like,
I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's explained in a way that's easy to understand, and it makes sense editing wise. You can picture it in your mind very clearly.
Yeah, I just know that because there were so many flashbacks, we have to. You gotta be careful that you're constantly moving forward. Instead of getting messed up and kind of caught up in these flashbacks.
Yeah, because in the beginning they are coming very fast and heavy.
Right.
Like, they kind of slow down as the movie goes on, but in the beginning it's like every 2 pages we're in a flashback.
Yeah, which for someone like myself that doesn't read too many scripts, I was kind of thrown aback by trying to picture, like, oh my god, this is a fuck ton of flashbacks. What is going on here?
Like, I did like the construct, but in the beginning I was a little worried, like, man, is this going to be happening through the entire script? And as I said, it does slow down.
Yeah, of course. It finds its pace, and
but it is a little overwhelming.
It is good stuff. What did you think of the kind of feelings that it halfway, well, I guess a quarter of the movie in, it kind of turned into the transporter? With the car chases and
yeah, I mean, I kind of liked it, but we don't really understand. And I guess it doesn't get too crazy in the action, so maybe it does make sense. But this guy, he's an astronaut. So,
right.
like, we get his backstory. If he was an astronaut, there was going to be a mission to Mars, and that mission gets canceled.
Right.
But somehow it's implied. Then that's kind of what leads into the question, like, oh, is this real? Did he really go to Mars? Because as far as we know, this mission is canceled. And we find out more about that later. But he's just like an astronaut. And
right.
Like, where would this action prowess come from? But like I said, there's not a lot of action. It is basically just like a car chase, and like he has a gun.
Yeah, I guess you got a point there. I mean, it's when you're reading it, it is pretty descriptive of zooming through small African streets and going through the bazaar, and next thing you know, people coming at him with a tire chain or something.
Yeah, like it reminded me of something out of like the Bourne Identity. Or
yeah,
something, like
right,
car chase.
exactly. Yeah,
but just like the chase aspect, not him beating the shit out of people.
Completely. Yeah, it was it was interesting to jump into that part. I wasn't expecting so much action in this movie. But,
I was expecting a little more espionage type stuff.
Right. I thought a little bit slower.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there is really any other big action moment other than that car chase. And that's kind of the only one I can think of.
I guess besides maybe not really action-wise, but maybe at the end when he was, I don't know. MacGyvering the pod.
Yeah. And we do get... So in the beginning, he's wandering the desert, and then he gets picked up by these tribe people who kind of help him, and... he's trying to get to town, and we find out that his wife is in town. That's why he's trying to get there. But they introduced this mercenary character, Novak, I think his name was. And this character doesn't really get a lot of play in the movie. Like, I thought he was going to be the person kind of stalking him throughout the movie, and he kind of only shows up in the beginning, in the end, and, like, you get a little bit of him in the middle. But he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
I was kind of curious, like, why introduce this mercenary character? And it's implied that not, like, a mercenary army, but they have, like, a few guys. And it's like, why introduce these characters and they don't do anything?
Well, I mean, you got to have your side characters, which, I mean, not everyone could have a bunch of dialogue. But I do think that it showed, because this Novak guy worked for the Russian billionaire, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean...
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to look through my notes, find his name.
Right, yeah.
Surkov.
Surkov?
Yeah, Surkov.
Right, so... I mean, I guess this Novak is just an extension of Surkov, just to show how strong this guy's...
But at the same time, we don't see a lot of Surkov either. He doesn't show up till about halfway through.
Right.
And then, we get more information on him. But, yeah, like, these are the core villains of the story, and they don't really do much, which leads me to wonder, like, is this more of a... You're okay. Just... is this more of a first draft thing? Like, were these characters going to be expanded a little more or wiped out completely? Because, like, as I said, there's not much action. And I think if they wanted to add more action, they really could have expanded on this Novak character.
No, I agree with you. There definitely isn't that much action, but I do feel like this is more of a sci-fi flick. Just seeing as how it's more of a... we're breaking down the character of... what's our main character's name? Evan has had a hell of a life from which shows from the flashbacks.
Right away in the flashbacks, we learn that basically all he's ever cared about is being an astronaut.
That's right. And he's a big picture guy.
Yeah, and that's something that comes up throughout the thing.
Absolutely.
And they're always like, big picture is like a quote throughout the movie.
Right, so I feel like that a lot of this movie is character-based and really trying to push along who Evan is and who his family is and how... things have fallen apart through the years with them. So, I mean, I understand exactly where you're coming from, where Novak isn't getting that much play, or we don't know too much about Surkov, but it's not their movie. I feel like,
at the core of this script, it's a little espionage mixed with like family drama.
Right. So, I guess it's not always a bad thing that we don't know that much about Surkov.
No.
It allows us to kind of weave our own tales here before the actual movie comes playing out in front of us. But I know exactly where you're coming from. I just think that this is more about Evan and his struggle, about the hallucinations, about how we didn't get to go to Mars, how next thing you know, some fucking Russian billionaire shows up. It's like, let's go to fucking Mars. I'm with you, Evan.
Yeah.
So it's
the definite draw to this script is like, what's next? Like you're constantly giving little bits of information, and it's just the breadcrumb trail to make you wonder, like, man, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
Because when we first started reading it, like we get about 30 pages in, and I come talk to you, I'm like, yeah, like have you started reading it? And we're both like, man, like this is really interesting right away. Yeah. And I do think it kind of trails a little bit in the middle, like because we just start getting flashbacks and we learn more about the family. He has a wife Chloe and a son whose name I was trying to buffer up on the names before, but it's kind of a classic story of they split up because he wasn't able to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish in life, and the son blamed the mom. It's something we've seen before.
Right, and, obviously let's throw in some alcoholism there, which is always fun.
Yeah, because they do the whole thing, like, so one of the first flashback we get is him meeting his wife, which is the whole point of what he's trying to do is he wants to get to this town to find his wife and get him to safety because he knows that people are coming after him, but we don't know why.
Yeah, can we just mention how hard it must be flying through space to fucking pinpoint I'm going to Africa and I'm going to land in this desert, which is 200 miles. I think that's not a bad estimate. That's like me saying I'm aiming for Chicago, but I landed in Milwaukee, probably something like that. So that's not bad.
No, but like let's also be honest how fucking impossible that would be because they're flying blind. Like they say that because this is a mission that's done in secret.
Yeah,
and they're like you have no mission control, which would never fucking work. Like
he's a very capable astronaut.
Yes,
yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah, and they imply there's a lot of stuff given in the flashbacks say like, yeah, this guy's fucking best of the best.
Yeah,
this is what he's been training to do his whole life. So it's believable.
Yeah, they had some great flashbacks where he's in. Isolation chambers and he's in there for like 90 or 100 days.
Yeah.
So it's it definitely I enjoy how the flashbacks not only help the audience, but they definitely give me insight into his character and how driven of a person he is.
And this is definitely a character piece of a story.
Yeah.
It's all about Evan and his connection with his family. And the flashbacks generally focus on like one of three things. It's either how he's dealing with his wife and his kid,
right?
What's going on with the mission to Mars, and then all the dealings with this Surkov guy,
right? And what he has in his in the pod. What did he bring back?
Yeah, so I guess a fourth thing would be what actually happened on the mission,
right?
Like, which there's only like one scene on Mars in the script because it's not about that. It's about what does he have? Yeah, so through the movie, like when they land, he takes something out of the pod. And it's all about them, like the bad guys, Surkov. They're trying to get this thing. Yeah. And we don't know what it is.
Some kind of maybe material. Well, I think it's implied that it's a material that potentially is energy saving or something that could
and that was kind of my assumption. And right. It basically confirms to be some sort of mineral that's way more powerful than plutonium.
Right.
And obviously that would be a very bad thing. But yeah, I mean, before we get there, it's a lot of... So we see him in training. Like you said, he was in the chamber.
Isolation.
Yeah, the isolation chamber. And they pull him out basically to tell him that the mission is canceled.
Yeah, that's got to suck.
Yeah, and this is something he's been working for his whole life. And then we get like, he's trying to fight with NASA to get the mission refunded and blah, blah, blah.
All the while, he's a fucking alcoholic and trying to... pitch proposals to Mars while being drunk.
Yeah, and they're basically like, we're not going to listen to this proposal while your breath smells like that.
Yeah, and that's demeaning.
Yeah, it just shows that like this is what this guy cared about, which really makes you think like, man, why did this guy even have a family?
Yeah,
because he treats them like complete shit. Which, I mean, leads to them separating at one point.
Yeah. I got to think it's got to be tough on a family unit. I mean, being an astronaut is one of those 150% jobs that if you're not in, you're out. Yeah. I mean...
And it sounds like he was just one of these guys that went above and beyond even what a normal astronaut might be doing.
Right. His only dream is to fucking go to Mars, to be that guy.
Yeah. And it basically just destroys their marriage, but not before their son almost dies in a plane crash.
Yeah, that was kind of nuts in that.
Yeah, it's so they have this plane, and the dad is clearly drunk as he usually is throughout the middle of the script,
right?
And in the flashbacks, And yeah, he's like having an argument with his kid while they're in a plane. Like it seems to be just like a single engine, like almost crop duster style plane. And the kid just takes off in it.
Well, you know, I can't really fault the dad. I mean, the kid's a prick. He just
he's kind of an asshole.
He's like, get out of the fucking plane. Next thing you know, he's like, see you later, Dad.
Yeah, and then I actually like the way they strike, like the wording of the scene and everything. Like when they talk about, like basically the kid trying to land the plane,
right?
And, like it's going to go bad because obviously, and the way that was done, like they don't show you the wreck or anything. They don't even really describe to you. It just kind of cuts away, but like. It's powerful enough because, like, you know what happened.
Right.
And then we do get introduced to the kid later on, and you see that he has, like, some scarring and some damage.
And he's kind of a prick now. And,
he's an asshole. and of course, it's all the mom's fault.
Yeah,
like, even though
hard-working mom.
Yeah, and it's like, even though Evan is clearly a bad father throughout all these flashbacks, somehow the kid still blames the mom. Like, oh, it's your fault
It's your fault he left, yeah. You were too much of a bitch to my dad, so.
Yeah, like, I thought the writing with the kid, that whole storyline was a little cliche and a little like it needed another pass. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing with kids in movies. I mean, not everyone could be such a deep character because we all know teens are fucking just stupid young people. So it's just the way it works.
I will say my favorite part of the script is definitely like the first half. So, which is where all the mystery is. So it kind of makes sense because it's what's driving the plot forward. But I really like the like sneaking around, like how I mentioned espionage stuff.
Right.
So like he lands, he gets picked up by this tribe, and then the Novak and his mercenaries come, and it's him hiding around the camp as they're searching the camp. I love all that stuff. And then he gets put on a tour bus, basically, to this.
That caught me off guard. Yeah, that really surprised me. I thought he was at like some fucking Busch Gardens place that they were bringing in people to watch the. I guess it's like a human zoo almost.
Yeah, basically, and they're like, "Oh yeah, look at these tribesmen holding machine guns."
Yeah,
that
kind of threw me off for a second. I mean, but once again, that's part of the fun of reading this interesting script,
Yeah, it's like, what kind of, like, is this real world? What kind of world is this taking place in? Because as far as I know, there's no tours like that, but I've never fucking been there.
I've never been to Africa, so count me out on that one.
Yeah, but and then so he gets on this tour bus and they stop at a town, and his way of getting the word out is leaving a YouTube message, which we never hear about again. Yeah, but I like the idea of it.
Yeah, well, when he went to the internet cafe and he was in the burqa and everything, people were after him. Yeah, that seemed like definitely felt like out of the Bourne Identity or the Bourne movies,
or like a James Bond movie.
That's what I felt like. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the early espionage moments of this script, where it's like, man, is this guy a spy? Like, what is going on?
Right,
like,
and the message that he records are like, my
gives
name
you
is
just
blah,
enough,
blah. Yeah,
but he gets
you
cut
need to
off.
hear from me. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, those were the moments that like really drew me in, and I like that was the point, because that's like the first 10 or 15 pages. That was the point where I was completely drawn in at this point.
I remember, you told me you couldn't really put it down over the weekend, so I was excited to keep reading.
Yeah, and that leads to him stealing the car that eventually gets, because the mercenary guys kind of descend on this town, and so he steals some dude's car. And so I did find the name of the town. It's called Addis.
Addis?
Yeah, or Addis is how it's spelled. So I don't know if it's a real town or not, but that is the city where he's trying to get to his wife.
Okay.
Which, so he steals the car, and then it basically he's like, kind of gets to Addis with little issue.
Yeah, it's the capital of Ethiopia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it is a real place.
There must be some desert.
Yeah, I mean, they never tell you what country he's in or anything. It's never like Ethiopian desert or anything.
Right. Yeah, I recall doing my own research on this, trying to figure out where the fuck this guy landed.
Yeah, and that was something I meant to look up and just never got around to. So after he steals his car, he basically shows up in Addis, and that's where we see Novak for the first, or not Novak, Surkov for the first time. And we don't know anything about him. We just know that Evan recognizes this guy, and he's like, "Oh, this fucking dude," and he's contemplating killing him.
Yeah.
And then he sees his wife, Chloe, which then leads to...
Surkov was going to meet Chloe, right?
I think he was just watching her from a distance. Okay, and Evan kind of sees both of them, so he's like, well, I need to get Chloe's attention.
Right.
So he gets someone to basically lure her into this building where
he gets a kid, right?
Yeah.
He pays some kids off just to come talk to him.
Yeah, just like hands him a pocket full of cash and just like, get her in there.
Right.
And then, like, because at this point we don't know what his relationship with his wife is. Like, we clearly have gotten some flashbacks where we see that there was trouble in paradise. But we don't know at this point, like, as far as I thought, like, she was waiting for him to come back. But it's like, no, it turns out they haven't talked in years, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Right.
And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, she's moved on.
Yeah.
She has a new business. She's starting up fucking... She has a new husband?
Yeah, they say because she's wearing a wedding ring.
Okay, right. Well, but she doesn't, because that was like the trick of
the
men,
kid,
right?
Yeah, the kid said that it was a lie.
Okay, yeah, see?
Yeah,
I
okay.
read it.
So she says that she has a new husband.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you're right. So he lures her into the building, and then this is where the chase starts. So she's clearly very resistant with him, but he basically drags her along, and then they get chased by Surkov's men.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when she's telling him, "You're crazy, you're hallucinating. Is this something that you think is happening?" Because I mean, listen, you just you're seeing your husband that you haven't seen in what 5?
I think they say 3 years.
3 years. He's fucking like a
And
zombie.
last time they saw him, he had a
gaunt.
drinking problem.
Yeah, he has a drinking problem. He's got like skin and bones because he just fucking came from Mars.
Dehydrating in a desert.
He's wearing a burqa, and he just sent some fucking little girl to come get you in there.
Yeah.
So and I'm pretty sure he had a gun on him, and he pulled a gun
he has a gun
on someone just so that she would stay and listen to him. So it's there's a lot of tension. A lot of tension.
So one thing so when he gets put on the tour bus, he's put on there by the villagers who saved him, and they give him a gun and tell him to kill the police chief. And that never really comes up again.
I don't really remember.
She's just like, so that's where he gets his gun. They give him like a pistol.
The villagers, right? Okay,
yeah.
yes,
and they're like,
the villagers.
They're like, you go kill the police chief, and he's just like, what?
Yeah, he clearly said, I'm not going to fucking do that. He had bigger problems to deal with.
Yeah, it never comes up again. Like the police get involved a little bit because they're the ones who end up capturing him later.
Right.
So it's clear that Surkov has the police in his pocket, basically. Yeah. But, yeah, this whole thing with the police chief never comes up again.
Yeah, which is, it's okay. It's just a small request at the behest of, these African warlords.
Yeah, and it just shows this guy's kind of, like, in over his head. He's I'm fucking in the middle of the desert. I'm lost. I have no idea what's going on.
He's on a tour bus, and they hand him the gun through or a purse, right? A purse with the gun inside through the window.
Yeah, he's still wearing the burqa.
I could definitely picture all of this happening.
Yeah, it's just an odd thing, and again, it's one of those things that never comes up again.
Right.
So he picks up Chloe, and then that leads to them. They got to go find their son, who's Danny. That's his name, and that's where we find out he's just like a little shit. Like he's ditching school, and he's basically out partying with his friends, right, on some field or whatever.
Yeah,
and then he's so excited to see his dad because again, he blames his mom for everything that goes on, which then later leads us to the scene where Evan's like, no, I was the asshole. And somehow this kid is just so surprised.
It'd be like, listen, your mom's the fucking shit. She's the real deal. I'm the prick.
I'm the one that left. And and like it almost seemed like he was lying, like the way he says it.
Well, he was making his wife look better in the eyes of their son. So, I mean, it was for the right reason.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. But yeah, this kid, he's just like a little shit. Like, basically all he does is swear and talk about how much of a piece of shit his mom is and how his dad's the best.
Wasn't there a point where he wouldn't leave and his mom pulled the gun out or something and shot into the air?
Yeah.
And then he's like, holy shit, my mom's crazy.
When they find him on the field, he starts to run. You know, like how kids get caught busted, they all start running. And so, yeah, she shoots a gun into the air and he's like, whoa, what the fuck? And he like drops down.
What a pain in the ass. I couldn't imagine. I mean, just being a parent. I mean, and you fucking finally find your kid and he's in some fucking field. And I'm just talking for all parents, I guess. I mean, I have to pull out a gun to stop my fucking son and shoot it in the air because he's too busy running from his fucking mom. It's gonna be rough. And
it's implied that the kid hasn't even seen the mom in a while because he was sent to school.
Kid's a prick.
Yeah, I mean, this whole family is just all over the place.
No, I agree with you.
So this is we finally get them all brought together, and now it's just a question of like, is he crazy or not?
Right.
Because this is when we start kind of learning more about what's going on. Like, this billionaire Surkov helped fund this private mission to Mars because he's like, that's where the next race is going to be. That's where like all these natural resurces are going to be.
Right,
we have to get there first. Which is a fucking crazy idea to think that somebody could fund this privately.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, just looking at our current, realistically, if we're ever going to go to Mars, it seems like the best prospects are going to be someone like Elon Musk or some kind of
Yeah.
hyper billionaire that's going to throw money into it instead of
Yeah.
NASA. So
But, I mean, you got to think if a billionaire is going to do that. Like, it costs like $7 billion
I
to build
know
one
it.
of these rockets
I
anyway.
know it. If you're the real deal, that's it's fucking chump change. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, once someone gets up there and fucking starts drilling for all the resources,
Yeah,
they'll
and
make
that's
their money
the-
back.
and
in
that's the
fucking
idea.
Tenfold. So,
So this is where we start kind of seeing more of the actual mission,
Yep.
which we still don't like find out about the mineral he has until
Mm-hmm.
after all this, but it's like we get views of them on Mars.
Yeah.
They're finding minerals, and one of the guys is kind of acting like he knows more of what's going on.
right.
And I think they're all kind of different nationals. So we got Evan, who's an American, and then
We got a Russian and I think a Chinese.
yeah, and it's just the three of them.
Yeah.
And again, no contact with Earth.
Very, very small mission. They don't
Yeah.
want too many people knowing about this.
And so basically they go there, they collect some shit, and
Yeah.
then they're on their way back. And all of a sudden they start getting sick.
Yeah.
Or the first guy gets sick. And I guess he just dies.
Yeah, something like maybe some kind of like respiratory failure or something.
Yeah,
with
they
his,
never explain what actually kills him.
Right, it's just he kind of fades out, and I believe he whispers something to the Chinese.
He says that he was supposed to be the one to make it. So we get the idea that he was in on
That's
it
pretty
with
fucking
Surkov.
crazy.
Yeah.
Say that shit right before you die.
Yeah.
Oh my
like,
god.
what the fuck are these other two guys supposed to
Right.
think? Like, are we fucking next?
Right.
So then the Chinese guy gets sick, and he kind of starts having the same thing. So
Right, and he had to kill him, didn't he? Or,
So, like earlier in the movie, we get flashbacks of Evan slitting somebody's throat in the space pod.
right,
And-
blood,
yeah,
zero
like-
G blood everywhere.
Yeah, floating, and like it's one of those things that leads you to believe: is this guy just fucking crazy? Like, what is going on? Is Evan the fucking bad guy? Is he a murderer?
Cinematically, that sounds pretty cool. Just
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah, and so we find out that he was sick, and he was basically like, "You have to kill me because, like, for one, I'm suffering. I'm not going to make it. There's
Yeah.
not enough food for both of us because there was only supposed to be food for one person."
Right.
And so basically, he's like, "Evan, you have to kill me," and Evan's like, "No." So the guy starts doing it himself,
Right.
But then he can't continue, so then Evan has to grab it and finish
Yeah, he
the
has
job.
to finish slitting his throat, I guess, or
Yeah,
something like
and
that.
it's just the way they kind of sprinkle all these moments throughout the script is, again, the mystery is done so well in this script. Like, one of my favorite like genres aside from sci-fi is mystery and like noir and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And this feels kind of like a modern noir story. Maybe not noir so much as just like a straight up mystery, but it's just handled so well.
Right.
And I was not expecting that from this script at all. Because, like, we were originally drawn in by the original Logline. It's like, there's something going on.
Right.
But, like, just the way it's just sprinkled throughout the story, I loved it so much.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I thought the way that they handled the flashbacks at the start was kind of concerning to me, but
Yeah.
a lot of the flashbacks were extremely powerful. So I definitely jumped into the story, and it helped me immerse myself in what was going
Yeah,
on.
and the fact that they slow down, it's
Totally.
like... Because, I thought it was going to be every 2 pages through this whole script.
Right, we had to get to the present. So
Yeah.
after we finally got to where we needed to be, the movie started cruising.
Yeah, like, basically, once he gets to Addis is when it... Everything just kind of like, okay, now we can go. And then we don't get any more flashbacks, really, until we need to find out what's going on with this mission. So yeah, that leads to so now we get the whole family together,
Yeah.
and then this leads to them getting captured because the wife just completely does not trust him.
Right.
And yeah, this is the scene where you're talking about where we find out that her wedding ring is fake, and
Yeah.
because he says that like, oh, you moved on and you got married, and the kid's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, she just wears that. So
Called him out on it. Finally,
Yeah.
fucking kid did something right.
Yeah, and then he, I think, proceeds to call her a bitch.
Prick.
Yeah, he's seriously so bad. But yeah, I will say I was kind of a sucker for the big picture thing. Like, throughout the scripts, he's always talking about, anything he's doing is just looking at the big picture.
Right.
Like, I'm going through this like crazy training because big picture, I'm going to go to Mars.
Right.
And I was kind of a sucker for the way that kept popping up, especially at the end, where big picture suddenly becomes, I'm going to be famous and well known for this thing, to I'm going to protect my family.
Right, yeah. It came down to what really matters, and his notoriety and his celebrity is fucking dwarfed by his love for his family. So
Yeah.
it's nice to get that circle to come back around.
Yeah, because throughout the movie, we're getting a lot of hints that he just wants to be the guy. He wants to be famous, and he's almost obsessed with it. Like, I'm going to be on Mars. I'm going to be the first human to go there. And that's all he cares about.
No, I agree. I thought it was... it is that big picture that is our window into the character. Because he is probably the most driven character outside of maybe Surkov, like in the whole movie, and I mean he better be. The whole movie's about him. So again, I agree with you,
and it's something his son shares. Like when the son kind of comes into the movie, whenever they're talking about anything, this kid's like, "Hey, Dad, remember big picture? Like you're going to be the guy." And then once like we get into the third act and Evan has kind of changed his mind, like, no, the big picture is to save my family, the kid is still like, but it's what you've always wanted.
Right.
And, he
has those dreams of him being on stage, accepting and seeing his wife in the back,
Yeah.
And, well, I guess those were more flashbacks to dreams. So he, again, he realizes what really matters, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because we come into the third act with they're trying to get to the American embassy, and then this is where the cops come in, where they see them, and then they all basically get captured. And this was something, maybe I was getting a little tired when I was reading this part, but somehow they end up in the hands of these, like, I don't even know if they were cops, but they're maybe like mercenaries or something.
Yeah.
But basically they're people who want what Evan has, or they want the capsule.
Yeah, they're probably some kind of private military company or someone that was hired to get it.
Because they don't seem to be related to Surkov. They don't seem to be related to the police. Somehow they end up in these people's hands. And I honestly can't remember how they do.
I couldn't imagine, his pod or his whatever's left of his spaceship coming into Earth is going to get the eyes of a lot of different governments, or just at least something to, there better be people after him if it's not just the fucking 4 people.
Because this is the point where we know that Evan brought something back from Mars, and we don't know exactly what it is at this point, but everybody knows he has it. Because there's like a flyer going around of like, oh, this wanted man, and blah, blah, blah. And everyone just keeps saying like, oh, he's crazy. Like his wife ends up on the phone with Surkov.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he's crazy. For your protection, just tell us where he is and blah, blah, blah. And that's what leads to them getting captured. And because his wife just doesn't believe him. So then they get dragged out to the desert by these people, and they're like, where's the capsule, and blah, blah, blah. And that leads to, like, they try to find it, and it's gone. So everybody, at this point, you're like, oh, fuck, he did make this
right,
up.
Yeah, he says that in the start of the movie, he buries the pod.
Yeah.
And then
which I don't know how much you could bury a giant fucking space pod.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking that. I mean, he's fucking, what is it, covering up with his fucking hands or something?
Yeah, I mean, I assume he covered it with a parachute and then was kind of covering the parachute with some sand to maybe keep it there.
Sure.
Because, there's no way you could fucking bury a pod that big with your hands in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we keep saying pod. All I'm thinking of is...
I mean, I think of the lander you see, like, when astronauts come back from, like, the fucking moon or something, which is like a giant fucking pod. I mean, it had to hold 3 people.
No, you're right, yeah. Here I am thinking of, Dragon Ball Z Saiyan pod, the little
like
fucking
the little
circle. Yeah, the spears that come to Earth.
No, I mean, I picture the triangular fucking
of course,
pod, the classic one.
Yeah, that's much more realistic.
Yeah, because we don't really get a description of it. Just we know it's big enough to fit 3 people.
Yeah.
So that they go out there and it's just gone, and you're just like, oh fuck, this guy.
Right, he goes there with his family. He tells everyone that we got to get to the spot. We got to get the fucking minerals. We got to cover up the fucking thing.
And he's just like, no, it was here. This is where I left it.
Yeah.
And I mean, then like 2 seconds later, we find out that tribe who found him in the beginning seems to have found the pod, and they're like taking it away.
Right.
So then it's like, oh fuck, like he was right, and I am so sorry that I didn't believe you.
Yep.
And this leads to kind of like our next small little action scene where these people who I don't know who they are, they're basically just going to kill them.
Yeah. What, the military or the PMCs? Or
they're going to kill Evan and his family.
Yeah.
Which
they get there. They I think they grab the wife and the...
I think what happens, so Evan doesn't believe it, and he's like walking to where it should be, and he's like, it was here. And they're like, hey, fucking stop, dude. And he just keeps walking, and he comes up over a dune, and then he sees the pod. They got it rigged to like cows that are like dragging it.
Right. All he had to do was walk another 20 feet.
So then, that's when we find out it's true. And he ends up taking out the person, like one of the people, there was like 2 armed people that were with them.
Right.
And Evan takes out that one, and you hear gunshots in the distance. You don't know what happened. And then you find out it sounds like the wife killed the other one.
Which was it the son or was it the wife that
I think it was Chloe.
Okay.
She had somehow got a gun from that person, and basically took him out. They don't even really elaborate on it.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, and then now we're just left out in the desert with this fucking pod, and now they believe him. Mm-hmm. And then this is where Surkov kind of comes back in, because she had already called him, because they had the flyer, which like, oh, if you've seen this person, because they keep claiming that he has like mining machinery, and that's like, oh, he has this like classified mining machinery, as if that would ever be fucking classified, and they want it back, and that's why everybody's looking for him. So before they had found the pod, she had already called Surkov and be like, hey, we're out here in the desert.
Yeah, she called him on the phone when he wasn't looking or something during the car chase.
Yeah, and now that they're out there and she believes him, it's kind of like, oh, fuck, I already did this thing.
Yeah, I blew it.
Yeah, and that's when Surkov shows up.
Right, with all of his homies.
Yeah. And then this leads us into the ending, which I think is a little unearned. Because throughout the whole movie, it's a lot of, I need to protect my family. Which, yeah, absolutely. But we keep getting talk that, like, you're never going to be able to keep your family safe. They're always going to be looking for you. They're always going to be looking for this mineral. But we don't know why. Like, if he gets the mineral out of his hands, why the fuck would anybody care about what happens to him? I mean, I guess it's because he was on this secret mission.
Yeah, he's a loose end.
Yeah, but it's like, if he goes to the embassy and spills the secrets, at least from my point of view,
right?
Like, wouldn't America protect him? Be like, oh, we have this guy that was on Mars. Fuck every other country. We're the best.
Believe me, we'd probably do the same shit that fucking any other country do.
I mean, it just they just didn't explain it enough in the script, I guess, for it to make sense to me.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I would think that's more of a director's job to really to get it across to us.
But I mean, I would argue that it's the writer's job, because I mean, this is a movie that hasn't been made, so all we have to go off is what's in the script.
Sure.
But there's not enough. They don't say who would be coming after him. Like, if you kill Surkov, like, who's left to come after him? Like, is the United States government going to come after him? If so, why? Is the Russian government going to come after him? If so, why?
It's kind of subtly implied that, he's going to have to forever watch his back if that kind of shit goes down.
Yeah. And then that gives us a kind of, well, he's going to have to sacrifice himself. And
I mean, it's better for the movie to have that, I guess, that part of the plot, but I know where you're coming from. It does feel a little
it just feels
flat.
unearned. Yeah. And that was one thing we had talked about, is that we really enjoyed the script, but the ending definitely comes off a little flat.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And yeah, that was just so disappointing to me, because I was really into it for the whole time.
Yeah,
and then,
well, now we see how fucking hard it is to write a complete awesome script. I mean, we enjoyed the second part of the movie, and then it just kind of peters off a little bit. So.
Yeah, and unless specifically specified on what draft it is, because sometimes when I'm finding these scripts, it's like, here's the second draft, here's the fucking fifth draft, or here's the rewrite done by this person. As far as I know, this is the first draft.
Right.
Maybe this is something that could have changed in other drafts, like if it got bought by a studio. I don't know if anybody currently owns this one. I don't think they do. But that's something that it definitely seems like when the Sony emails leaked and everyone was talking about the James Bond movie, like, they're reworking that third act because it's a mess. I could see the same words going out about this movie, is like, this ending needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like they could have done more with, like, the American embassy and, like, maybe add another character for him to be in contact with or something.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know.
It did feel like a very small cast.
Yeah,
if we,
it's like 6 people in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from like some extras and like the village or whatever. But as far as like speaking roles, there's like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, I agree. What would you rate this movie? How many? What would you give the script?
I mean, I really enjoyed reading the script. I would give it a solid 4 out of 5. Like, if the movie came out this way, I'd be like, yeah, that was a really enjoyable movie with kind of a flat ending.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd give it probably 3.5 stars.
Yeah. I mean, if sci-fi movies generally get a bump up for me, just because I love sci-fi movies. Yeah. But like I said, I was a sucker for some of the flashback stuff. I was a sucker for the big picture thing, the way that kept coming up. And just the way I pictured it being directed in my head. Like, I'm trying to think of who would direct this movie.
Yeah.
And immediately that comes to my mind is Sam Mendes, who did Skyfall and Spectre.
Okay.
And he's done a bunch of other movies. I think he did American Beauty and stuff. But I think of, because a lot of this movie takes place in the desert, and I think of the opening of Skyfall, just the way, I mean, he'd have to have the same cinematographer, but the way he makes the desert look and stuff, I feel like he would have been a really good director for this, and he can just make action so intense and so gritty, and I feel like that was kind of like the first choice for director that would pop in my head for this movie.
Who would you see as?
See, that's the thing that I've been trying to think of somebody, and they definitely give you like an age range for this guy, like late 30s, early 40s, and I just couldn't picture any actors of that age range that fit it for me. Like maybe somebody like Carl Urban, but I don't think he's the best choice.
Carl Urban. Yeah, Dredd.
Yeah. But I mean, he's an actor I would kind of throw out for any role.
I was thinking, what's his name? Where is he? Giovanni Ribisi. You know that guy?
Yeah.
Kind of bit short for an astronaut, but I do think that we're looking at a guy who's just gotten back from Mars and who's really under a lot of stress and like just skinny and fucking tired and just beat up, and I don't know, something about Giovanni. I recently started watching Sneaky Pete, so I don't know, something about his character just
I mean,
kind of comes off to me that he could play a jittery type of
dude.
So I don't know, I think that would that would do it for me there.
Like, I guess I was like, when I think about it, I was thinking more of like him during the flashback scenes. I picture more of like a Dennis Quaid type.
Yeah.
But I can't think of somebody.
I was thinking Aaron Eckhart a little bit, something like that.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't think of anybody in like that was like Dennis Quaid, but at that age.
Right.
Because just that age range of actors is kind of lost on me right now.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, do you have any final thoughts on the movie?
I thought it was a pretty cool script. I think that, like I said, I mean, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I thought it was fun, and I enjoyed reading something that was a little bit out of our normal comfort zone.
Yeah, and it's things that like the mystery that kept me going. There's a lot of really good dialogue.
Yeah.
And some really good characters and characterization of those characters. But yeah, I would see this movie if it came out like in a heartbeat. Like,
I'd check it out.
Even you're reading this script and like hoping they change the ending, I would go see this right away.
I recommend it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. And
Thank you for having me
as we do this early in the morning around everybody.
Yeah, it was a good time. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. And again, if you need to find us on Twitter, you can always follow us at Shelved Podcast. Mm-hmm. And of course, email the show at shelvedfilmpodcast@gmail.com. Do you need to put out
No, I don't have any of those social media followings.
Yeah,
so
I know we put out your Twitter.
You could catch me on here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sitting with me.
Bye.